everyone, this is Mindy Eggen and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing some rainbow ink blending and also using glitter glaze using this Presents layering stencil from Pretty Pink Posh. They are celebrating 8 years, so happy birthday Pretty Pink Posh. Here's a look at the stencil that I'm going to be using. This is a 3-piece layering stencil, and you know I love my stencils. There is one that's going to add stripes and stars and designs to your presents. There is the open rectangles, which is the presents, and then the layer that's going to add ribbons and bows to the presents. I will be using my Make Art Station to hold my stencils in place, and I'm starting with a piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock that is 80 pound. If I have any cardstock, it's typically 80 pound. That is my favorite cardstock to use when it comes to ink blending and Copic coloring. So I'm holding my stencil. This is the open one. This is going to be my first layer, holding that down with my magnets. And then I placed a large piece of Post-it tape to mask off the rest of my stencil. I'm starting with this first line of presents, and I will be using Sparkling Rose from Pink Fresh Studio. I'm using all Pink Fresh Studio inks today because they have such a great assortment of colors in each color family. But you can certainly use whatever inks you have on hand. So once I have that first one done, I'm going to peel back my Post-it tape, place it over my pink that I just ink blended, and also mask off the layer below. So I'm just doing kind of selective ink blending, and I'm going in a rainbow order. Now this one is Peach Fuzz, and I am using the lightest of the colors out of the color family. There's 4 colors in each grouping from Pink Fresh Studio, and I'm using the lightest color out of each of those. This next one is going to be Lemon Whip, and I am using blending brushes to apply this color. I get a lighter touch to my ink when I use a blending brush, and I'm going in circular motions, making sure I switch direction so I'm getting that full coverage of the stencil. Then I moved on to Fresh Pear. Once again, making sure I'm masking off the area below and above because I kind of get a little crazy with my ink blending, and I know I would get it into my other areas. And then this last color is going to be Ocean Breeze. Ocean Breeze. Now I think my stencil shifted a little bit, but I'm just rolling with it and hopefully nobody will notice. I removed my Post-it tape and that first layer of the stencil, and now I'm bringing in the layer that has the bows and ribbons on it. Once again, I'm masking off the areas. This time I'm going with the darkest color out of the collection. So this one's Raspberry Bliss. Then I moved on to Persimmon. Now you could always just use the same color as you did previously and just apply more of that color to get that to be darker. So totally however you want to work it and whatever you have available to you. Then I did Marigold and Emerald City. And then for my darkest color on the blue, I have Mermaid Cove. I'll remove the Post-it tape and my magnets to reveal my background that I have so far. And then I'm going to bring in that third stencil, which is going to add the designs. And it was at this point that I realized I did this out of order. This one should have been second. I wanted to add a little bit of color with some glitter glaze on top, but if I would have just added it as is, it's going to kind of cover up or go over the top of my bows. So what I did is I went through, I masked everything off again, and I added just a very light layer of color. I didn't even re-ink my brushes. I just used whatever was left over just to kind of have that faint look in the background with all these cool designs. So after I get all of this removed and then I wiped off my stencil, I'm going to rinse it off in the sink to make sure I don't have any color on there. I'm going to place it back over the top, and now I can bring in my glitter glaze. This is Fallen Snow from Brutus Monroe, and I have to say, this stuff smells really good. It's like fresh, clean soap. It really smells good. I enjoy it. But I'm just scooping a little bit out of the jar, and using my silicone spatula, I'm going to spread this all over those open areas, which is going to place that bow over the top of the presents. So you won't even notice that I had some lines or circles from that last stencil that I just added to the presents. I'm going to make sure that this is spread evenly across my card front, and then when I remove it, I am going to rinse it off in the sink with some warm water and soap, and I will typically wipe off my spatula with a baby wipe, and that's how I also clean my surface, is just with a baby wipe. You don't want that glitter glaze to stick. So then I'm going to pick this up with my tweezers and set it off on the side to dry. For sentiment, I really debated between these two stamp sets. The one I decided to go with is the birthday scripts, so it has all the scripty words on there, and I chose Happy Birthday. I'm prepping a piece of black cardstock with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to ink this up in a white pigment ink. And when I stamp this down, I'm just going to press gently. I would rather stamp it twice than push too hard, because otherwise you're going to squish your letters and distort that. But I was really happy with the first impression. So then I'm going to sprinkle on white embossing powder and tap off any of that excess. I'm going to melt that embossing powder with my heat tool, and once it's cooled down after about 25-30 seconds, I'm going to wipe it down with a Swiffer cloth to remove any of the powder from my anti-static powder tool. I will then take the coordinating die and line it up, hold it down with a low tack tape, and die cut that out. I also went ahead and die cut out the word happy 2 or 3 more times from that black cardstock, and also the word birthday, and layered it together with liquid glue. That is going to create dimension, and I don't have to fuss with small pieces of foam tape. I created a side folding card base that is going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I trimmed my front panel down to be about 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and I added this double-sided foam to the back of that panel, and then placed my card base into my MISTI, lined it up in the corner there and held it in place, and then removed that backing once again from that double-sided foam and placed this over the top of my card front. So I like using the MISTI. It helps keep things in place and just helps me eyeball this a lot better so my margins are nice and even. Then I can take my liquid glue, add it to the back of my sentiment, and I'm going to place that in the center of my card, and I do hold it down for a few seconds to make sure it really holds to that kind of textured background. And I'm also going to place an acrylic block on top, just something heavy. You could use your phone, just anything to help hold that down, and I leave that there for about a minute or two just so it's stuck to that background really well. So that finishes up my card project for today using the Presents layering stencil. And it so happens to be my daughter's 16th birthday today. So I popped this in a hot pink envelope and gave it to her for her birthday. I will have all of the supplies that I used today listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. Here are a few other videos you may enjoy.